Camille Martin with Love to Lose, where I show you how to love your life and lose the weight. Back in 2003, when I was in my dietetic internship, I did a rotation at a bariatric surgery clinic where patients were vetted to see whether they would be good candidates for the surgery. Unfortunately, the main criterion for which they were assessed was their ability to follow a strict diet plan. And patients who were not able to adhere to it were referred to as non-compliant, which is the unfortunate term for people who basically can't follow instructions. So one of the first patients that I witnessed being vetted with a dietitian who I was reporting to was a woman who was so nice, so excited about the surgery, wanting so desperately to be accepted to be a patient at the clinic. The dietitian I was shadowing, she was very efficient, she was very good, she was very detail-oriented, but unfortunately she wasn't very nice. She wasn't very empathetic or kind, and she didn't really have a warm demeanor. So I had to sit in her office, which was really, really tiny. It was her behind her desk and the patient directly across from her, and me sort of sitting to the side in the middle. And I wasn't allowed to say anything, I was just there to watch. So this woman came in, she had been there the week previously and had received her diet plan. So the dietitian started out and said, "How did it go? Did you stick with the plan?" And the woman said she launched into her, she felt she was not giving excuses, but she was trying to explain why it had been so hard for her to stick to the regimen. I could tell that she felt very, very uncomfortable. She was very apologetic. She felt like already that she was failing. So she explained how her husband and her 2 children found it hard to stick to the plan that she was supposed to stick to. It was very rigid. It was very comprehensive. She was supposed to basically throw out everything in her kitchen and start using all new products. She had 2 children and a husband to cook for, and her life was really busy, and she basically found it nearly impossible to stick with it. She explained how she worked really, really hard. She bought all of the foods that she was supposed to eat. She made every effort to incorporate it into her lifestyle and the lifestyle of her family members, and just couldn't really do it. She hadn't lost any weight in the previous week. She hadn't been able to stick to the program, and she was so devastated that she hadn't been able to do it, and I could tell she was really worried that she was not going to be accepted as a candidate. But as I was listening, it was easy for me to see how it wasn't that she had failed. She was not the failure. Her life circumstances were interfering with her ability to make such drastic changes, which are hard to make in the first place. I could tell right away that all she needed was a little bit of empathy and a little bit of compassion. But instead of that, the dietitian that I was working with looked at her across the desk and said, "Am I just wasting my time here?" It was absolutely horrible. I felt so bad for that woman. She did not get compassion. She definitely didn't get empathy. She didn't get encouragement or support. So not only had she failed at the diet, she felt like a failure. She was made to feel like a failure, that it was her and not her circumstances. So what I want to talk about today in this video is that we all have the tendency to shame ourselves when we don't stick to something, when things don't go the way that we plan, and we also, instead of not only shaming ourselves, we don't see that there are multiple outside influences that have an effect on our ability to make changes. So let's talk today about how to avoid the shame spiral and stick with something and take control of your circumstances so that change is inevitable. The first thing that you need to understand is that shame prevents change. So I'll say that again. Shame keeps you from changing anything. So as long as you're feeling ashamed, you're not going to be able to make any changes at all. So what you have to understand is that shame is tied up in you feeling like a failure, that it's all about you and what kind of a person you are. And any kind of failure, first of all, everything is not just a failure, that's how you learn. But feeling a sense of shame at having failed means that you're attributing the failure to you, when 90% of the time it's environmental. And you can identify places in your environment, which includes your routine every day, that you can manipulate and modify to work to your advantage. So what you want to do first is identify at least 3 areas in your routine or what you do daily that could be interfering with your progress. Whether it's you could get up earlier because you feel like you're running out of time, or you have the wrong things stocked in your refrigerator and you just need to weed it out a little bit, or whether there are other people that are depending on you, just like the lady that was in the clinic. You need to identify all of these areas, or at least 3, that you can make one tiny change to. And once you start making tiny, small changes, and you make them successfully, you get small wins that build your confidence. So feeling confident also obviously eliminates the shame somewhat. So recognize that it's not about you, you're not a failure. And once you start feeling confident from making successful changes, which means making tiny changes that are easy and sustainable, you'll start building your confidence and the shame will start to go away. The second way to eliminate shame is to praise yourself. What are you doing right? What have you consistently done right over the last year or so? What changes have you successfully made that you can praise yourself for? Have you stuck to a consistent workout routine? Have you incorporated more greens or more water to what you're eating diet-wise? Praise yourself for what you're doing right. Write it down if you need to. That's always a great way to make things stick. Write down a few ways that you're really succeeding and praise yourself for those ways, for those things that you're doing right. And then, obviously, stop criticizing yourself for what you're doing wrong. You have to mess up. You have to try a few times to incorporate changes in order for them to stick. It doesn't happen right away. So support yourself. Encourage yourself. Don't be the bad dietitian like that dietitian in the office where I was. Be a good dietitian. Be the supportive dietitian that praises you and keeps you on track and keeps you going. So remember, shame prevents change. And if you want to make changes and be successful and ultimately lose weight, you have to eliminate shame from the equation. So we all have our inner bad dietitian and good dietitian, and anytime you hear that voice of shame in your head, I want you to picture that dietitian who was sitting across the desk shaming that poor woman. And I want you to think of your good dietitian as me, because yes, even though I was not an official dietitian, I like to think of myself as the good dietitian, and I want to be there to encourage you and support you on your journey. So make sure you sign up for my newsletter that I send weekly at CamilleMartinRD.com, and make sure to send this video, share it with someone who you think would benefit from the message. Thank you so much for watching.